Right, I'm turning this phone down. All right.
All right, so good afternoon or good evening from wherever you are in the Americas. Welcome. This is a University of Liverpool online webinar. My name is Nicole Wayman, and I will be your moderator today. Now, before we get started, please allow me to take care of a bit of housekeeping. You will find a Q&A text box available. We encourage you to submit your questions. We will be able to answer some of them live, while others will be answered by the team in the background. Thank you, and now please join me in welcoming today's panel. Again, my name is Nicole, and I will be your moderator. Joining me on the panel today is Nicholas Kendrat. Nicholas is an enrollment advisor with the University of Liverpool Online. Say hi, Nick.
Pleasant evening to everyone out there. I see a couple of my students. Thank you guys, and enjoying spending the next hour with you guys. Hello.
Thanks, Nick. On the back end, we have enrollment advisor Sammy Jabarine. Sammy, say hello. Okay. Well, while Sammy gets his unmutes
Hello,
himself,
everyone.
Great, thanks, Sammy. We also have Jamie Shaw. She is an enrollment advisor with the University of Liverpool Online as well. Say hi, Jamie.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jamie. And now I'm quite pleased to introduce Mary Brewster. Mary is a July 2017 graduate of the Master of Science program in Project Management. Good day, Mary. How are you?
I am fine. Hello, everybody out there in student land.
Awesome. Well, Mary, would you kindly take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your studies and your current situation?
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Mary Brewster, and I'm from the beautiful island of Barbados. We had a few hurricanes, yes, but we are standing still, and we want to say, our condolences to all those families who've had losses. But Barbados has opened up our doors as a hub to reach the other islands, and I want to say, it's a blessing to have you here today. Thank you, University of Liverpool, for having me here. I started my core studies in 2012, and I completed this year, 2017. A wonderful experience, even though it was online, and my journey to graduation was even more exciting.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Mary. We'll hear more from Mary as we go through the webinar. So now let's cover our agenda for today. Today, we will provide you with information on the heritage of the University of Liverpool. The University of Liverpool is an original red brick university. From there, we will take a look at the accreditations and strong faculty presence. We'll then take a walk through online learning with our primary guest, Mary Brewster. Mary has an impressive career history and a very successful academic journey with the Master of Science program in Project Management at the University of Liverpool Online. In addition, she still provides consultation services to her active yet very successful grown children. We will then complete our webinar with a discussion on the next steps to enrollment and a live Q&A session. Now let's get started. So Nick, can you tell us a little bit about the accreditations and the heritage of the University of Liverpool Online?
Absolutely, I'd be delighted to, Nicole. Liverpool, as we all know, is a world-famous city, generally known for two things, the Liverpool Football Club and the Beatles, but it's also home of a top-class university that's been around since 1881. So we're located right in the hustle and bustle of Liverpool, and our campus has been right in the middle of the city since 1881, and we're about 100 acres in size. But our reach as a university goes beyond that. Through our academic excellence, we are truly a global university that's world-renowned for innovation and research impact. During these 130 years, many proud achievements. We've maintained our Royal Charter accreditation. We've been the home of 9 Nobel laureates. We're a founding member of the Russell Group, which is the top 24 research universities in the UK, and we're very proud to be a top 1 university in top 1% university in the world. So we have that famous brand recognition of being in Liverpool, but we are truly a global university that reaches over 160 countries. In addition to our university accreditation, we've sought out industry accreditation, which allows us to really stamp our programs, both on campus and online, with an additional seal of quality. You see on the slide there, we are accredited through the BCS for certain computer science programs. Our management school is accredited through the AACSB. And as it pertains to Mary, her program is developed within the framework of the Project Management Institute. So just again, a stamp of approval that our students can rest assured that that degree that they're earning and that hard work that Mary will share with us is going to be recognized not only from an academic standpoint, but also from a professional and employable standpoint.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Nick. Now, we all know that the faculty is great with the University of Liverpool. So, Nick, tell us a bit about the faculty with the university.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we really strive for, is to provide a close relationship between professor and student. So I was on our website today. I counted over 45 countries our online faculty span from. Over 60% of them hold doctoral degrees. And the really nice thing that I'm proud to say is that they're not just academically qualified. They're also going to be qualified in their area of expertise. So I'm sure Mary can attest, when she was taking a module on risk management, she had a professor that was an expert in risk management. So not only are we developing you through the mentorship of, an instructor that's academically qualified, but they're also going to be qualified within the area of which they're teaching, which, in my experience in higher education, I've never seen that before. So very proud of our faculty.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Nick. Now, we know that online learning is different than a campus setting. However, we believe that the best person to tell us about this is Mary. So, Mary, can you talk to us about the online learning environment?
Well, the online learning environment is challenging, but I would also say easy. As long as you go through the orientation, it's a self-study orientation. And that teaches you actually how to navigate. And with that knowledge, it becomes easy. However, I would have experienced some challenges because I'm not computer savvy, or people say IT savvy. So I had to put all my fears away. I sat down with an IT officer from my organization, and he helped me to not to be fearful, but to be able to navigate with the knowledge that I gained. And so with that, it was just all in. The thing is that you meet your classmates in a classroom. You don't see their faces, you don't hear their voices, but based on their work and their writings, you can actually experience that person. You actually have an opportunity, because everyone in the class, they're supposed to submit their bio. This is prior to the beginning of the class. And so you're free to go and read everyone's bio, and you get to learn a little bit more about each person. I've experienced persons who are engineers in oil and gas, persons who live in Egypt with names that, I have to look at it 3 times to be able to pronounce it. But then what I did, I went after the first names. The first names was easier. But it was very friendly. We were asked not to be rude by our instructors. We had to respect each other. And so our responses and so on had to be kind. You had to learn how to be kind to someone you're not seeing, and it was just based on the fact that we shouldn't be disrespectful to persons that we don't know. But it was a good experience. I will do it again.
Awesome. Well, I'll ask Mary, I know that you studied on a traditional campus. Can you speak to any differences?
Absolutely. Well, being on a traditional or physical campus, there's fun too, but many more restrictions to me. I was a student athlete, and it meant that I had to my grades had to be good as well as competing for the university. And I need to say here that I'm all American. I went to what we call the nationals, and I competed against about 20 universities at the time. And yes, you had to go study, you had to perform, you had to go to the track meets, and so we were challenged mostly by getting to your classes on time. You still had to train. Regardless of the weather, you had to get to class. And so if you were doing more than one class, and apparently if you had classes that were back to what we call back to back, in other words, class starts at 6 and the other one finishes, sorry. So you have to start a class that finishes at 7 and your next class starts at 7:30. You had to go across the campus to get to class on time. It was not an excuse. You couldn't not be in class because you had to perform. Your GPA was critical to being on the track team. And so, yes, physical classrooms were at that time very challenging for me, which is why I enjoy the freedom of having doing my course at home in my bedroom.
Awesome. Let me ask a question about that because, considering what you said, having been playing sports for the university and trying to study, do you feel like you retained much information in the traditional classroom, or did you mostly study towards exams? What was your experience like, considering that you were juggling so many things while in that classroom?
Well, for me, I love knowledge. I like new information. So I was always excited about getting information because if I don't retain that information, I can't use it tomorrow. And so it was easy for me. I'm sure for those who decide to go to university to do a degree of some sort, you will be similar to that in that you're not just doing it because you want to get a grade. For instance, my GPA at the time was 3.59, and that meant that I was on the honor roll. And so with that, I think my battery wants to run down on me, so I will finish this quickly and maybe someone else can answer another question. But with that, the knowledge was good. I can actually use that knowledge today. For the time that I was there at school, I imparted that knowledge then to my children. So as you said earlier, my son and my daughter, they're both amazing because I took in that knowledge and I knew I wanted to have that knowledge to use for legacy.
I understand. Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, now let's talk about the collaborative learning module. We know that there is much interaction between students and that a great deal of learning does occur from
Yes.
student to student. So can you now speak to us further about the collaborative learning model?
Well, in the classroom, it meant that you had to, well, let's start. You would get an assignment, say, on Monday. That assignment had to be submitted by Wednesday. You were then given another assignment on Thursday, and that had to be submitted on Saturday. But amidst all of that, you had to be in the class. You could not be there. Part of your grade actually is being in the classroom. And so within the classroom, you had to respond to person's questions. So in other words, let's say Nicholas, you were in my class, and Nicole, when you respond to the instructor's assignment, you will have to set your response in a way that it would cause interaction from your classmates. And so persons then would have to respond to your answer, and you had to have at least 5 persons, 7 responses, and then your responses had to have references with a total of 350 words. So it wasn't like a 2-liner or a paragraph. Every single thing you did in that classroom was pivoted to your grade. And so working together with all those people actually really helped you to get a good grade. Because let's say no one responded to your response, it means you don't have an opportunity to expand on a subject matter. So really, being in that situation, your classmates helped you to improve on your response that's giving you a better grade.
Awesome.
Mary, tell me a little bit about how, you mentioned a lot of international students. How was that collaboration with, students from all over the world? How did you enjoy that, and did you find value in that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it was even more exciting when I got to graduation. I was like, I know you. Your name is familiar. We spoke, and that was the most exciting part for me because you now move from a remote situation to a person's live in front of you. So let me just encourage you, it's not going to go to a dead end being in that classroom. Attending graduation will make a difference because it's like the start of a network. I actually met a gentleman from Jamaica, and he worked at the Pearson Airport in Toronto. Now, my daughter boyfriend, and she shouldn't hear this, but my daughter's boyfriend is Jamaican, and he works at the airport. So I was able to make a connection. I'm like, wow, how in a million years would something like this happen? Then I met persons from Africa who I would have remembered their names online. So that was good for me. And then I met a young lady who, I think she was from Egypt, and her husband was moving from America to Egypt. And she thought it was an interesting story in that her charity work meant that because of the studies, her studies at Liverpool, she was now able to take that information and wove it into her life, including her husband. So he wasn't even left out of the picture, you know.
Very nice. Great. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. So, of course, we know that earning the degree, it is a climb, right? So, did you have a favorite module while in your studies?
Well, of course, being an event manager, it meant that sort of did projects. So everything is a project according to an event manager. However, according to PM Bach, there's a definition of what that is. So my favorite all-time module was the introduction to project management.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Was there any particular aspect of your studies that you felt really good about?
Yes, my thesis I wrote on value management, and one of the things in back here in Barbados, we are a service industry, and so tourism is really the heart of the matter for Barbados, and so it is critical to know how to serve persons and to do it in excellence. So for me, what value management did was to open my eyes to the word value. Now, most people would see value in reference to dollars and cents, but it's even more than that. Value is actually quality. So here I am in a situation where I'm thinking, what am I going to write about? And it made so much sense because of my environment here in Barbados. It means I can now bring that information and even tutor or teach people about what value really means. So value management is actually the consideration of your client. What does value mean to the client, and deliver that. So it's not value as per dollars and cents, but quality. So you deliver a quality project on time and within the resources that you have. So I was able to tie value management into project management.
Awesome. Definitely sounds like you took everything you learned and pulled it in. So I,
It was
I love
amazing.
it.
I had a great time. I really, really did. Yes.
Good. Well,
Yes.
what was your greatest challenge while in the program?
The greatest challenge was having my grandson with me. As I remembered, he was born in the same month I was starting my paper, and I'm like, this is not good timing. But of course, my daughter being married, she came home for a visit to Barbados. She's actually studying in Toronto, and she had fun with her husband, and then came to raise my grandson. So because she was studying, I had to put aside um, my selfishness of, well, can I do a little bit of Beijing here? This is what we would say, I can't do that now. Now, that meant I cannot do that now. But when you get to that point where you're stressed and you go into your self mode, that takes away from even an experience of learning. So I had to put that aside and say, look, time management, I have to sit down and work out my time management because I have no choice but to keep my grandson. So time management was really critical for online studies. Don't ever take that for granted. No way.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
that's great advice.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about online study tips. Now, you were very successful as a student. Do you have
Yes.
any online study tips that you can share with the audience?
Yes, I actually wrote a few down, permission to read some of them, and I hope you don't mind. I
Absolutely.
actually have to the letter J, so they're quite a bit. Now, the first thing I said before was to find your rhythm. And finding your rhythm means what is it that I have to do today that's going to affect tomorrow? What is all encompassing in my day that's going to help me to be successful at the end of my studies? And you have to sit down, take that into consideration, and don't be, what should I say, try to be real. Keep it real because that's what it is. That's what it is, and you have to work with that. So, first of all, make sure that you set up your timetable. The timetable is critical, which would include your study time, your family time, your professional time. Make sure that when you set your timetable up, that you make room for your studies. Make sure that your family buys in on this with you. Make sure that your workplace, your profession, they buy in on it with you. Because the day you have to go home and meet a deadline that you didn't work for, you have to say to these parties, I have to leave work early. Dad, husband, wife, whoever the case may be, I need to go and study. So please, could you excuse me? I'm sorry, but you have to minimize your social time. You can't go partying as long as you want as you did before you study, because if you consume too much alcohol, that's going to affect you. If you don't get enough sleep, that's going to affect you. You have to make sure that you minimize. You have to socialize because you need to lift your head up, but that you have to minimize, right? What was the other thing? What I did was I took a folder, what we call a binder, and I took all my modules and my information and I organized them in a manner that if I had to refer back to anything, I know exactly where to find it. It's not somewhere in the room, but it was actually organization was critical. So you must organize your study work. And this one I felt was really important. I learned this a little late in the session, but I said as long as I have an opportunity, I can tell all my students. Microsoft Suite. The Microsoft Suite becomes your best friend when it comes to referencing. Now you know you have to use the Harvard module or that type of style. But what the Microsoft does, you key in the information, and so when you're typing your paper, it will come up. Now you still have to be careful that you're typing the correct thing because some names could be similar. But what Microsoft does is gives you the opportunity to bring that reference up exactly, so you're not trying to, there are different types of referencing. So most importantly, no plagiarism, and as long as you work with a Microsoft Suite, you will be able to get your referencing accurate, timely, and you won't be, unhappy or stressed about not doing the right thing. So that's it. There are more, but just in case there's no more time, I'll stop there.
Well, we definitely appreciate you sharing those tips, Mary. And you
Yeah.
definitely, words spoken perfectly from that of a project manager. So you can tell that that's your background. So now let's talk about career advancement. Can you tell us about your career and how your new degree has impacted your career?
Okay, so at one point I was self-employed, and the name of my business at the time was Champagne and Roses, and it was an event planner and a wedding planner. And so it was very important for me to get it right the first time. There was no room for tomorrow because you have to get it right the first time. And so then I was given an opportunity to create two organizations from foundation. One was property management, the other one was a charity. You may have heard of the Maria Holder Memorial Trust, which I'm now a trustee. So when I started the organizations, it meant building from the bottom up. I even had an opportunity to assist one of the staff members coming from overseas who were going to live in Barbados. So he was displaced from his country to Barbados, and he had a list of all the things he wanted. And so I had to fill that list, and there were no excuses. He got exactly what he wanted. So as I grew into the organization under project management, I guess the company saw my skill set, and they felt, we could use her in a different role. So I remember the day in question. We started in 2007. In 2009, I was asked to come to the boardroom, and everybody knows when your boss asks to see you, where you go. So I went that way as well. When I got and I sat down at the table, everybody looked at me with this blank face. It's kind of like, in retrospect, I realized they were playing with me. And everyone looked at me with this no expression face and said, "You have two answers for us. And it's yes and it's yes." So there was no, yes, there was no discussion or anything. And basically, they were promoting me from a project manager within the charity to a trustee on the board. Now, as much as that sounds great, it broke my heart a little bit, because when you're on the ground running, when you have to go out there and talk to people who can't help themselves, I didn't have the opportunity to finish some of my projects. And so it was a little heart-wrenching for me, but then I recognized that I had to let go to then help other people. So what should we say, the promotion was critical in that what I did before, it was a prerequisite to what I'm doing now. And so it means, having had the experience from the University of Liverpool, I can now put things in perspective and help persons make the best out of. And so here value management comes in. So we have the end user. Are we going to create this building and don't think of the end user? No. We have to take all the stakeholders into consideration, especially the end user. Even in the location where you would have erected that building, it's critical to speak to the persons in and around the environment, because it will affect them, either positive or negative. And we certainly don't need negative. So going to school helped me further able to live out the knowledge that I gained at the university, and it's ongoing. As a matter of fact, when I came back from graduation, I moved it up one other level, and if you don't want to hear that now, you can ask me a question about that another time. So it's entirely up to you.
Okay. Well, we definitely appreciate it. Now, let's speak a bit about, as far as, how you're using the degree. We were told that you're a lifelong learner. Can you tell us your thoughts on education at any point in your life?
Okay. Well, education is everything that is around you. When you think about it, you can look at a glass of water and be educated. You can look at the ocean and be educated. You can have a conversation with a person on a bus or a train, and you can be educated. You can have children in your life where they're not going the road you want them to take. That is an education. So education is not limited to the classroom. Education is all around you. If you refuse to accept that, you're not going to learn anything, or you have limitations in your thinking. And so with those limitations, you wouldn't even consider going to university to sit down and intensely study new information that you could use down the road. So for me, education is a powerful tool. And I always say that when you have knowledge, no one can take it from you. If you don't have knowledge, you have nothing to use to better yourself, your family, your environment, and it's kind of like a dead end without having knowledge. So I really want to promote knowledge is power only when you use it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. So what we know is, what we have online students, and one of the greatest rewards of studying online is being able to go over to the UK to actually graduate on campus. So as I understand it, Mary, you were just at graduation in July, right?
Yes, yes.
Great. So would you tell us about your journey and participation in that graduation?
Well, for sure, the most nerve-wracking point was, did I graduate? So you knew when the results were supposed to come out, and every day in March I got home and I went and checked, because I used my computer at home. I didn't use my computers at the office. So every day I came home and I checked, and that day when I saw the letter, I've never read so fast in my life. I skipped all the paragraphs and just went to the point. And yes, I graduated. It took me a moment to celebrate, but I did. So As a project manager, you think, so what is my next move? You have to think, where you're going to stay, how long you're going to stay, are you going to allow an agent to help you with your travel arrangements, how do I get to Liverpool from Barbados? So I went into that mode, and so I sat down and I started to write what I want to achieve. Now, being what I call an alien to Liverpool, I need to make sure that wherever I'm staying, it has to be no challenges to get to the university. And believe it or not, I have to say though, God is amazing. Without God, I wouldn't be able to do any of this, yeah? So I start to talk to God. I said, Father, I need to be close to this university because I don't want any challenges. I can't be late because you keep hearing, if you're late, the doors are going to be closed. Imagine going miles away and then get there and the doors are closed.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned. So what I did, I purchased some notebooks. I had a little notebook to make sure I know when I go online, the hotels I'm looking for, all the critical information on the graduation and the days, I did it all well. So I decided then to call an agent, and she gave me some instructions to how to get to Liverpool. So from Barbados, you can take British Airways or you can take Virgin Atlantic. And so when I got into the information, I realized British Airways is only going to take me to London. So I'm like, how am I going to get to Liverpool? So the agent gave me two options. Either I can take a train that's going to take forever, or I could take a coach that I will be miserable. So when I get to Liverpool, I don't want to do anything else but sleep. But then I thought, no, let's really, the journey there should not be challenging, okay, because there's a purpose for going there. So then eventually, I took a flight to London, then from London to Liverpool, and then from Liverpool I took a train, and then I took a taxi. So it was really easy. But you know what was most amazing? The most amazing thing is that the hotel was down the street from the university. I'm like, wow. So I got to the hotel and I asked the receptionist, do you know where the University of Liverpool? I'm ashamed to say she didn't really know exactly where, because I'm here sitting telling you that I could point my finger to the university. That's how close it was. And so that was the most amazing thing. So what I did, I planned my day. I looked at my days when I'm supposed to pick up my information and my gown and everything, and I make sure that I planned. So this is what happened. The day before university, my graduation, I decided I'm going to go up to the hall and get my stuff. But if the person's graduating on the day are picking their stuff up, I cannot be in their way. I can't be so selfish, right? So I let them go. So I waited around about 8:30. They were all gone. Because if anyone was there by 8:30, it meant the doors would have been closed. So I thought, good. I went and I got my stuff, and I was about to leave the room. As I was about to leave the room, I'm like, but you don't know how to dress in a gown. Why didn't you ask for help? Do you know that I did not have a piece of my garb? And I'm like, what if I had just walked out of here and did? So I'm glad that I decided you must check. Don't take for granted that everything is going to be A-okay. Check and check and check. So get to Liverpool if you're coming from far away. Get to Liverpool. Get your itinerary. Make sure you know exactly what you want to do. Stick to that. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And then on the day, you can sit back and enjoy the day that you've worked so hard for. But it was a good journey as well.
Great, great. And you did speak about meeting many people from your studies while you were on at the graduation, so I'm sure that was a great part of your experience
Yes.
as well. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Alumni Network. Now, Mary, have you joined the network as of yet?
I'm guilty. Actually, what happened when I first came back to Barbados, I tried and it wasn't yet completed. It wasn't yet constructed. So as my job is very, very busy, when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm guilty, I've not joined. But when I went to one of the cocktail parties, they impressed upon us to join because you become now a part of a network, a body of alumni that is valuable to you and you must connect. So afterwards, I am going to join.
Great. So now we know why it's important to you, right? That networking is everything. So it's definitely a great
Yes,
opportunity to keep in touch with your university. So
absolutely.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now, let's talk about the support network. What was, our audience can kind of get a sense of, the excitement that you have about your studies and of course with going to graduation. So tell us a bit about the support that was offered and received by the University of Liverpool Online.
Okay, so I was introduced to the University of Liverpool by a friend who's actually studying at the time, and he felt like you have got to go to the University of Liverpool. There's nowhere else for you to go. And so he referenced me in. So, you refer someone in and then that starts. And so when I got the call, I was amazed. I was like, but I only gave him yesterday. So the person, and her name is Alexandria St. Clair. She called me the following day. I think she was at the time the international advisor. And we got on the phone and we started to talk about it. And I had to qualify, yeah? It wasn't like a walkover. You had to qualify. Now, at that time, I would still be considered a mature student. Mature in that I would have had time on my hand, 3 years, and as well time doing or operating in the skill set that would mimic project management. So I had like 20 odd years working as a event planner, and so with that, my age and my motivational statement that was submitted then to the body who would have made the decision to see if I qualified or not. It was a little nerve-wracking because I've only gone to one university, but as prestigious as the University of Liverpool is, I was thinking, well, maybe I'm not good enough. But they felt different. The response was really warm and welcoming. When they had decided that I was going to be one of their students, they sent me a letter explaining everything. And so I started on the roll to start, I think it was September of 2012 when I was supposed to start that. So part of the enrollment as well, you had to do a test on, I think it was orientation in what you call online studies. So you got past the enrollment, you got in, and you still had to do certain things to make sure. In other words, it was like the university held my hand from the beginning until that day that I started. And there were moments when I was in my car and Alexandra called me, and when she called, I was in tears, and she was like, "What's wrong, Mary?" So I pulled the car over, and she started to talk to me. She said, "Mary, you are going to be great in this." And she encouraged me and encouraged me and encouraged me to the point I felt, if she believes in me, I believe I can believe in myself. And so I took my feet up again and I started running. And so when the tough got going, I'm serious. I even felt that you spent money on me. I'm serious. I felt like the University of Liverpool felt she is worthy of X. And so the university called me. As much as I would have wanted to call them, she said, "No, I'll call you back. I'll connect with you then." And when she said that, she did. So much so as I felt there was nowhere else for me to go. There was nothing, and I have to take this on, and I have to be successful. And so the enrollment, even though there was some challenges, okay, one other thing I want to mention was I'm blessed to say that my organization supported me financially. However, they still didn't give me a home run. So I had to perform so that in my lack of performance, I don't get to do the next module. So although they paid for my schooling, it meant that if I didn't pass this module, we're not going to pay for you. So it was also an incentive, even though initially it sounded like, but that's not fair. I took that on as I'm going to turn what is supposedly a negative into a positive. And so now I had the incentive to drive each module and to pass each module. So from the enrollment to the beginning of the class, I felt that the University of Liverpool held my hand and helped me cross many bridges.
Awesome, awesome. And what about student support? Had you used any of the support services outside of enrollment throughout
Yes,
your studies?
yes. There was a gentleman by the name of Stephen Merrifield, which you guys all know about.
We all know Stephen.
Yes, and he then was in student support. And he too was very encouraging because as I recall, I had my grandson and there were times that I couldn't make it. I didn't make it. There was weather challenges. There were times when the computer would crash, and there was always something to want to stop me from going forward. But whenever I sent an email to Mr. Merrifield, again he was there for me, Mr. Merrifield, encouraged. So much so as we started a dialogue and the relationship grew. And guess what? We have the same birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was even more pleasurable to find out a little bit more about him. And yes, he was a gentle voice at the other end. He was a gentle hand at the other end of the emails that really made a difference. There was always the back end. If you had any IT challenges, they were always back in 24 hours. Never past 24 hours, because I guess they understood timing of getting your assignments in and not having that brokenness at all, which is part of the rhythm. So IT support was there with you, and they were always responding within 24 hours.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Mary. So let's talk about the next steps. So Nick, tell us a bit about the next steps. I'm sure Mary has inspired, several people in the audience today. With that in mind, let's move, over and talk a bit about the next steps. Can you tell us what someone needs to do if they are interested in applying for admission to the University of Liverpool Online?
Absolutely, and like Mary displayed, we're really here to hold your hand through the entire process. We want to make sure, one, that the program is a good fit for you, that you know all of the expectations from the finances to the time commitment. So really, the first thing to do is get in touch with us. We will be here within the chat for some time after the presentation. Chat us if you're ready to apply. We're here to counsel you and make sure you have all the information, and that at that point, once you decide the university is a good fit, we can get started on the application. Our faculty board meets every week, so it's a pretty quick turnaround from the time that you complete your application and all of your supporting documents, that we can get back to you with that good news, like Mary had with Alexandra, that she was admitted and ready to embark on this life-changing journey. So we're here. Chat us, go online, call us. We're here to help you, and we're waiting to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Now, while we're talking about the next steps, tell us about application success. So what does it take, or what makes a successful application?
Yeah, and as you can tell by Mary's dialogue, the program is going to be serious. It's going to have to be a commitment. It's going to have to be time and effort. So the application really is the first step in that. So I have limited it down to 3 Ps that I think makes a good application. One is to be proactive, to reach out to your enrollment advisor, to be prompt, to always meet your deadlines, and to always stay in the deadlines given to by your enrollment advisor. And the last one is be professional. Think of it as you're applying to a job, but in this case you're applying to a top 1% university. But again, that's where we're here to help. That's what we do in my office here. So again, we're waiting to hear from you. We have our winter session starting in November and December, and please, we're waiting to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Nick. And with that, we are ready to bring some of your questions to the table. So let's open up the questions, the Q&A session. So Nick, do we have questions that we'd like answered at this moment?
Absolutely. We have dozens of questions in here. Thanks for everybody for taking the time to send us a question. What I've done is I've gathered them into groups, and I have 2 that I'd like to direct to Mary that seems to be on the top of all of our attendees. One would be, the time commitment. So you mentioned that you had a family commitment with your grandson. It sounds like you were very busy at work. I know that you mentioned that time management was important, but just, if you had to estimate, how much time were you spending every week, and how did you really find that rhythm that you felt was critical to your success?
Well, if you want to, for those who have to work, my job, I would say, is from like 9 in the morning to 4:30. And so within that period, I was not allowed to study. I couldn't study at work. So it meant, based on the distance that I lived from work, that I had to make a decision with my organization and say, I need to leave work at 4 o'clock. Now, if they're going to invest in me, they actually have to partner with me. And so I requested to leave work at 4 o'clock. It meant from 4 o'clock to, I'd say, 6 o'clock, I was getting my grandson. I got Torres to bed the latest 8 o'clock. And from 8 to 12 midnight, I made sure my assignments were finished. However, I had to work past that assignment midnight time schedule because it meant I had other assignments. So I kept on studying. So I kept on studying, say, to about 3 o'clock. Within that period, I took some breaks to drink water, have something to eat, maybe take a power nap, something that I had to work on. It was important to take a power nap to shut my brain down and to come back afresh and to attack, because there were times when I'm just looking at this computer and my whole body started to say, time to stop now. And you stop, you take a break, because if your body is saying that, you should, okay? So I would say from 8 until 3 o'clock in the morning, I would be studying. If there were times when I didn't go to work the following day, permission given, I would take a break between 3 and 4 and get up and study again, which meant I had to get my grandson to nursery school or to his it was at the time baby school, say from 9 o'clock. So that happened every day. Now, it wasn't the same, but you could actually hear a pattern being built. And so initially there was a trial and error pattern. And then I thought, no, that worked, but this didn't work. And so to get the rhythm, I had to focus on what worked and what didn't work, including all the areas in my life that I had to deal with. I mean, I couldn't put Therese in the crib and say, all right, you could cry your head off, I got an assignment. I had to make sure that I had to get home on time, get him fed, get him to bed, get into class, and meet my 12 o'clock midnight, which I met every single time. So the rhythm came when I looked at all the things that I had to do, all my tasks, and I worked the trial and error, which one works best for me, and I just used it. So that went on then for a period of time. Anytime that got broken, I'm sorry, I had to find it again. And so it became easier to find because I would have already worked out what really matters and what really works.
Awesome. Any other questions, Nick?
Yep, one here, one last one, Mary. As far as your degree being recognized, so when you're able to go into that board meeting and say, well, I'm a graduate of the University of Liverpool, does that turn heads? Does that get people's attention as far as having that brand recognition? And, are you seeing the return on your investment with choosing Liverpool, such a university that has tradition and the history? Are you seeing that when you say that you're a graduate?
First of all, before I got back to Barbados, when I was at graduation in Liverpool, someone sent the interview that I did with, what's his name again, Jeff? I had an interview online, right?
Joe.
And when I got back to Barbados, right, everywhere I turn, wow, you made us proud. I see you online. Look at that lady. And people were just talking about the interview. They were like blown away. Even before I got back to Barbados, messages were being dropped in. And so as part of the charity, I usually have to give speeches. So I would either opening ceremonies, graduations, different things that I have to do on behalf of the charity, which is more than in with the property management. And yes, now I have to say I don't blow my own trumpet, but when I'm asked to present a bio, you have to indicate that. My sister, who's also a teacher and a graduate of the University of Boston, she said, do you know that you could have purchased your gown? And that, do you know that you could wear your gown? And I'm like, isn't that a little bit much? She said, but that sets the standard to where you are and where you've come from. So I'm actually reconsidering, I'm getting my gown and wear that gown to display, the journey. And I'm sure that would invoke persons to ask questions about the University of Liverpool. But yes, I would like to say that it makes a difference, because before you give your speech, people would read your bio and they will talk about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Nick, did you have any other questions?
No, that seems to be it, Nicole. Thank you. And Mary, I have to say thanks to you, for this, spending this time with us. It's really been enjoyable, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure that you would consider me to assist you with your new ventures.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Recommend a Friend program. So, Mary, you were referred to the University of Liverpool, and you did speak about that a little bit towards the beginning of the webinar. Now, before we close, I'd like to take a moment to mention the Recommend a Friend program to our audience, but just some conditions do apply, but for students who recommend a friend to study, you both can enjoy a financial reward. As we say, those who study together succeed together.
Yes.
Yeah, so, right now we're ready as soon as November 9th. That is our next intake. We are enrolling students as we speak for this intake. We encourage you to consider making the application, and if you are ready, we are ready to assist you in a successful application and admissions process. We have a team of enrollment advisors that are currently available to speak with you all about getting started, so don't delay this goal, not even for another minute. If you would like to be contacted now, please provide us your information in that Q&A box that you have there, and one of us will reach out to you. We encourage you to consider making... Yes.
Nicole, before we go off, I want to say one more thing. If you can finish what you're saying, but just to know that I want to say one more thing before you go.
I was just letting everyone know that we're definitely here right now. So, like I said, don't delay your actual getting started on that application. Go ahead, Mary.
So I want to mention this, and this to me I feel is really critical to sort of like put the icing on the cake. As an online student, when you go to graduation, not for a minute did we feel removed, like we weren't campus students or no one recognized us as campus students. I was actually taken aback by how we were treated. As a matter of fact, there was a cocktail party for the management students of project management, and we were able to come together. And then they had another cocktail party where you would have met the faculty and staff and all those lecturers that you would have, so you actually come into contact with those people. But on the day of graduation, where everybody was like, where are you sitting? Where are you sitting? And believe it or not, even where you sat was critical. It felt as if all the online students, every single one person who took that course online, we sat on stage. And that might not mean anything to anybody, but we were kind of like elevated and brought into a positioning that even graduation, you were felt as if you actually were on campus. And I love that about it as well. So I encourage all of you, you have to join up tonight. Tonight, there's no tomorrow unless you do it tonight, right, guys?
That's right. That's right. Why delay until tomorrow what you can do today? So I definitely agree with you, Mary. Yeah. And so, you know what, with this, we'd like to thank you all for attending. Thank you to the enrollment team for the information. Nick, we truly appreciate all of the insight that you given this evening,
Yes.
and with the presentation. I do appreciate your assistance. And Mary, a grand thank you for your information, knowledge, and shining example of what a successful student is. Mary, in closing, do you have any final word that you'd like to give the audience?
Yes, please, ladies and gentlemen, when you find your rhythm, it becomes so much easier.
Well said, Mary. Well, once again, this has been a University of Liverpool online webinar. Thank you and best to all of you, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.